Hi. Well, what a funny season we're in at the moment. The American elections coming up, and there's all the COVID stuff going on, and so many things around the world that are chaotic. And I've really noticed on social media, particularly, just how everybody's expressing their opinions, aren't they? And getting quite angry with people who don't have share the same view, and it's sad. I just think it's really sad, and it's difficult, and there are so many difficult things that people are having to think about. Um, but I thought you'll see what I'm saying about this when I come to the end. But I went to see Kinky Boots, which is well, a lot of people have probably seen it as a musical, but I actually saw it at the cinema. And it was being shown on the big screen, having been filmed. One of the musical performances had been filmed, and I went to see Kinky Boots, and I actually went to see it a second time because I was so I felt there was so much in it, and I wanted to go back again and make sure that I didn't miss anything from it, because I felt there was so much that was being said, and so much that I could learn from it actually. And some of the things that really interested me in it, that I think we can learn from in the climate that we're living in at the moment. Um, so I don't know if you know the story, but it was about a shoe factory in the north of England, and they'd been making shoes. This family had been making shoes for years and years and years, and it was getting more and more difficult, and the sales weren't there, and it looked like the factory was going to have to close. And the father died, and it was the son who was expected to take on the role of running the factory and being the boss. And actually, he didn't really want to do that. He wanted to do something else. It'd been expected that he would do that, but he didn't really want to do that. Um, and and he does end up coming and doing that. But in the story, he meets this guy who's actually a drag queen, and wears boots that can't support the weight of a man, because they're not designed for that. Um, and so, to cut a long story short, the factory changes tack, and they start making kinky boots for this whole new market. And it's this amazing story of friendship, really, between the owner of the factory, this northern guy who's made shoes, and Lola, the drag queen. And they find some really interesting things out about each other. One of which is that in some ways they're very similar. They both had dads who expected things of them, uh, expectations that weren't met, and how they wanted to break free to be who they really were, rather than who they'd been expected to be. And um, and that was really beautiful, how coming from completely different backgrounds and experiences, that they actually had this bond in common, that they both were yearning to be who they were actually designed to be and created to be. um and and also just the way that this guy from this factory was willing to change tack, and in a climate where, as far as he could remember, the whole factory had been about making shoes, fairly ordinary, if excellent shoes. But they had to be willing to embrace something different and something new, and something maybe that a lot of people wouldn't understand or thought would be a bit weird, to make these amazing kinky boots for Lola and her team. Um, but they were willing to do it. They were willing to think in a different way, and challenge themselves and change, and do something in a different way. Um, so I just wanted to read you a few things. Some of these are just things that struck me, and were quotes from Kinky Boots. So uh, one thing was that you change the world when you change your mind. How we think about things, how we see things, um, massive. That's how things start to change in our world. Um, Maybe we judge what we leave behind by what we inspire in other people. I thought that was beautiful. One never knows what joy one might find amongst the unwanted. They just have a real punch about them, don't they? And I think it's really good just to think about some of these things, particularly when we're in the midst of all this stuff going on around us. Um, Celebrate yourself triumphantly. Some of the music in the musical is really, really special, the words, if you listen to them. And I think they apply to all of us, about celebrating ourselves, valuing ourselves, and valuing other people, people who are different to us, that we still value them, that we still love them as people. And I think that was the biggest thing that came out for me, was about loving the person, that we can look at someone and think they're so different and that we have nothing in common and we don't understand why they do what they do or like how they are. Especially, I think, in the media, when things get whipped up and maybe aren't even true. But if we just look for the gold in people, if we look for the good in people, if we look behind what's on at the surface, what's presenting itself, and we love people, then actually we'll often find that there's a connection, that there's something really beautiful there. And as we affirm the good things and the gold in people, then actually they can become who they're created to be. They can actually flourish and do well. Now, I know this isn't going to apply to every situation and everything that we read about and we know is going on, but if we could all just start to do that a little bit, I think that could make a massive difference to our societies and our cultures and the world that we live in, and to our health as well, actually, our health and well-being, that as we look at positive things and embrace positive things and change how we think and think in a positive way, and love people and focus on that, then I think we'll probably find that we feel less anxious and less agitated, and our muscles are less tense, and it has a real benefit for us as well as for other people.